So, crypto markets are trading sideways right now. We did see the US markets regain a lot of the losses that it saw after Nvidia pretty much showed its earnings, and then we saw some dumps in the market. Key news events right now, which are having an effect on the market, looking at inflation data as well as consumer sentiment data, and it's overall looking balanced, but we're still anticipating that it's not looking too hot, and inflation is on the rise moving into 2026. Rate cuts moving into December is on the horizon, which is where everyone is, looking forward to. But in today's video, I want to give you the macro perspective around Bitcoin, exactly where we could be headed in the upward direction, more than likely on a macro lens, and then from there, what to anticipate closing out the week. But with all that being said, let's go and jump straight into the price action, the news events, and what you need to be aware of. So, as I said, we did see a little bit of green in the markets today. We did already end the day, currently 8:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we're seeing the markets trade a little bit as the Chinese markets are going to start to open up. But overall, you can see with the price action around Bitcoin how we're testing areas of resistance and support and wondering exactly if we're going to be headed in the upward direction based off of a few different perspectives around analysts, where the heat map is moving and exactly where liquidity is as well. We're anticipating that we could be seeing some upward trajectory, but moving into the end of the week, this is where it's going to be really important to see exactly how Bitcoin is going to be closing out. Now, if we look at Ethereum, it is also on the rise. What I am worried about is that it's going to test this trend line and then from there start to fall down. We do have a few different perspectives on exactly where we could be headed just based off of a higher time frame and also what we are currently seeing with the overall move in the markets. All coins are following the price action around Ethereum, and until Ethereum starts to break out, all coins are also going to be testing these areas of resistance. Right now it's looking keen on pretty much seeing a little bit of a rejection, but it's squeezing right now as well, which points to the fact that a breakout is probably going to be happening. Now, moving more into one of the biggest indicators that lets us know when altcoins get liquidity is Bitcoin dominance. Now, Bitcoin dominance hit that 60% region multiple times, and then from there has been on a downward trajectory for the past few weeks. This is really important because this is why everyone is screaming altcoin season already, because altcoins are slowly squeezing out liquidity from Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, we're seeing a shift in liquidity, not due to the fact that everything is just pouring back into altcoins and Ethereum, but more in the fact that the markets are overall getting squeezed in general. So this is where a lot of people are looking at these indicators, anticipating that altcoin season is automatically going to be starting. But I'm sure we're going to be testing a few different areas before we actually start to see a full major breakdown. Now, as I said, key news events happen on a week-to-week basis, and today we saw some really important data come out which let us know exactly how the Fed is determining rate cuts moving into December, how inflation data is looking, and how consumers are feeling based off of everything that's going on in the economy. Right now, all you really have to know is that it's not looking too bad. Expectations were kind of sitting where they were expecting with inflation, and the biggest thing is that the economy is not falling off a cliff, but the consumer is tired. Everyone in the United States is done with the high cost of living and rising purchase sales, all these different things that are going on. It's causing a lot of fluctuations and overall downward sentiment in the market. This is due to inflation and sticky in goods because of tariffs, and multiple other different things, but confidence is just going down, and this is where everyone is saying that we're seeing flashing recessionary signals. So moving into tomorrow, we're going to be having some more data come out with the GDP data for the US for Q3, and then from there some more inflation data, home sales data, and a few more other things. So this is going to be really important. Moving into Thursday, it's going to be Thanksgiving, so we have a short week, which is why I don't want to make this video too long. Moving into the perspectives around the markets, as I said, stock markets were extending a lot of gains and practically erasing all of the downward momentum that we were seeing whenever Nvidia reported its earnings, and then from there we saw a lot of sell-offs in the market. So it's looking quite bullish. Everyone is expecting that more than likely we're going to be seeing green closing out the week, but it's going to be really important to anticipate what's going to be happening with Bitcoin to also be correlating with the stock markets and exactly everything that everyone has been saying. And this is where we can see last week's market crash has been completely erased, and the S&P 500 has now added 250 points since Friday's low. Now, moving into another perspective around Bitcoin. Now, this is exactly the trajectory that we're seeing with Bitcoin and what you should be expecting, especially if you're longing and shorting like I am myself. Now, if you want to pretty much look at these specific ranges and zones, the heat map is really going to let you know where price action is going to be headed. So, Bitcoin has some big sell orders above the 90,000 level, which is where a lot of people are anticipating we're going to be headed. On the downside, there are strong bids around the 80,000 to 83,000 zone. With the stock market turning positive, which we have been seeing, Bitcoin could tap the 90,000 zone given that there is not much resistance. KillXBT also kind of confirms this perspective for us in terms of what he was seeing with the heat map. And earlier in the day, he was actually not having such a flip-flop perspective. He felt more confident that more than likely we had already topped out for Bitcoin at 89K, and then we're going to be seeing, you know, that downward reversal. But as we have kept on moving on throughout the day, the heat map has slowly changed, and this is where he said liquidations in both areas, sitting at that 83 to 80,000 region, and then upwards of 90,000, are pretty balanced, and the market at the moment could go either way. So right now, this is where I'm anticipating we're going to be seeing green in the market, but it's going to be squeezing out a lot of people. We're going to be seeing a lot of nasty volatility in the market, and this is where you just need to anticipate what's going to be happening next. But one of the biggest things that everybody needs to know is what to anticipate approaching the 14th of December. This is a great post that KillXBT went over, and this is where you can kind of understand how to anticipate all the green that we're probably going to see in the market, and then from there, what's going to happen afterwards, the downward momentum. So this is where we jump into a few different perspectives around Bitcoin and exactly the movement that we have been seeing, and this is where he pretty much just gives one great perspective. It just says it real clearly. We're going to go over it in a whole nother video, so just make sure you guys stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe. But overall, he says between the 12th and the 14th of December, Bitcoin will form a local top. Mark your calendars. And I honestly agree with this because this is something that we covered multiple times all the way since June, guys. As we approach the 12th and the 14th of every month, we see a peak for Bitcoin, and then we see downward deviations. And especially since everyone is anticipating that quantitative tightening is going to be ending on December 1st, that is whenever a lot of people are going to start rallying, throwing a whole bunch of money in the market. The market is going to squeeze out a whole bunch of volatility, and then it's going to freaking shit in everyone's faces, and then everyone's going to be, running around because they just lost a whole bunch of money. So anticipate this. I'm going to be keeping you updated as we keep on progressing towards it. Now, moving into the perspective around the market, guys, in terms of my perspective, everything is trading sideways. And moving into the close of the week, especially with, Thanksgiving being on Thursday, everyone is already starting to front run the markets, which is why a lot of people believe Bitcoin is going to be testing that 90,000 region, potentially even a little bit higher. My portfolio has been seeing some green across the market in the 24-hour window, which is great to see, but this is nothing compared to what the markets are actually going to see whenever everything starts to rally super freaking crazy. One of the last things I want to show you is exactly a post that I reposted earlier today. If you guys aren't following me on X, go follow me _PlayboyG. But you can see exactly Raul Paul predicted the pullback that we just saw about 6 months ago. And this video was really crazy because it kind of goes into exactly what has been happening and how a lot of people think that whenever we start to see a little bit of pumps that they think it's going to be over, when in reality we're going to be seeing a crazy rally. And I plan to document all of my plays throughout all of this. I have a crypto portfolio, as I said, so as I start to decide to take profit, I'm going to be letting you guys know all that on the channel. But guys, that is currently what is taking place in the market. Key news events are happening, wrapping up the week, so please make sure you guys stay updated with that. I'm going to keep you updated on everything that's going on. Mixed perspectives on the price action around Bitcoin. More than likely, we're going to be seeing some upward price action, some volatility in the market with the stock markets, getting a lot of those gains. But I'm sure we're going to be seeing some deviations approaching the 12th and the 14th of December. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, drop them down below. I'll be sure to try to get to all the the comments. I really do appreciate all the support y'all show me on the channel. If you guys have anything that you're worried about, anticipating the 12th or the 14th, or even the pump that we're gonna see, just let me know what you're thinking. I'm gonna drop a full update tomorrow with the updates with the data that's coming out, and from there I'll just hopefully catch you then. Do not capitulate your bags, expect volatility, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.